I am streaming? Fascinating. Okay. Things are a little too simple for me these days. Things are so simple now that I can't believe they're that simple. That's fascinating. So I'm over that. I'm like, okay. I don't believe I'm streaming. I just don't believe it. I'm such a boomer, dude. I gotta know. This is a story of my life. This is anxiety that I'm talking about. Double checking. Did I lock the door? Oh, two lazies cranking out these Alex Jones crash outs or whatever y'all call it. Whatever you Zetards call it. Oh my God. Can I just go to myself? View your channel. What does it even look like? Oh, I am live. Double checking. Did I lock the door? Oh my God. Stop. Okay, well, that's happening. That's a real thing. I don't know how you do this pop out. I'm sorry. Anyway, there's no chat involved in a proto streaming. This is some early bow proto streaming, or this is the last moment of my life. So this could be the culmination of everything I've ever done. But the gist of it is, I've got some answers. Here's the gist of it. I'm wrapping up my life. I'm ending my life. It's over. I'm done. I'm not that I want out, but I'm not. It's like more like a DNR, right? It's a do not resuscitate. I'm not really putting any money to this. I don't have health insurance. I'm falling apart. Okay, well, we'll see how long I can survive doing like this. But what I've done is I've cashed in my retirement from teaching, early retiring at basically 35% of what I would have gotten, banking on the idea of I'm not going to live that long, and really saying I've got to get the message out, because I've come across, well, two things that I would say are answers to the universe, two things that would qualify as that. But there's so many solutions out there that are just amazing. So before I even begin talking, I'm using words. So we need to make sure we understand what words mean and what I'm saying. I understand what words mean, like what a word is. Most people don't. Most people are thinking, like in third grade, they learn what a dictionary is, and then that's it. They start using the language of a third grader that's learning words, which is how we speak to third graders. We say, oh, the meaning, that means this. You find the meaning in the dictionary. Because they're third graders. They don't know any better. They're like brand new to the whole writing things down stuff. Kindergarten, they're getting alphabet. They're alphabets, they learn letters. They must learn some words by the end of the year, but they're not like writing essays in third grade. Wait a minute, hold on. In fourth grade, they're supposed to write essays. Holy crap. This is really unbelievable that we just speed rush them through this whole, no wonder. Okay, so here we go. Here's the problem. Yeah, we're speed rushing everybody and going, wait, you know what? We forgot to talk about what a word is. No one ever shared that with the children. So here's the thing. What is a word? So a word is whatever you say it is. So here's my reality of semantics before we get lost in all the discussion of it and contemplation. Words mean only what the speaker thought they meant when they used them. So when a speaker uses the word, like I am saying potato. But see, I'm saying potato. That's a reference to a word. I'm not really saying potato. I'm not talking about potatoes. I'm talking about the word potato. So that's a reference to the word. Already it's confusing. But let's not forget the reality of semantics. Words mean only what the speaker thinks. Words mean only what their user thought they meant when they used them. It's 13 words. It's concise. It says it all. Because it deals with writing, speaking, all that. So words can exist theoretically, like the word potato is a word that means this and used by humans, and we're referencing this word. So when we're referencing the word, that's kind of the theoretical word. And when we say potato, we're not really saying the word potato, we're saying the reference to the word potato. Because we don't mean potato, we mean the word that means potato. We mean P-O-T-A-T-O. So we're not talking about actual, I should have a potato here. In fact, it's really crucial when you talk about the meaning of words, you have the thing, right? So there's a glass here, so that's a physical thing. But let's keep going with potato. I like potato. Because potato is a real straightforward thing. No one uses potato in a crazy way. It's not the name of a political concept that gets very weaponized. So that's another thing that's going on with words, weaponization, like fascism. So we have a negative connotation to fascism and communism. So they're weaponized. They're used to, like in name calling, which is labeling, which is not the same as using the word necessarily as we use it in English language. Because if I'm calling you a potato because I want to hurt your feelings, I'm not calling you a potato in the ground. I'm comparing you to a potato. So I'm referencing the potato, but I'm calling you a potato. You are the potato. I'm labeling you a potato in that it is like a thing that grows in the ground, potato. But the reason why a word means only what the speaker thinks it means and not the listener, you, the listener who's listening to me, you don't know the meaning of my words. You're assuming them. And that's a major concept that's going on in the world with everything, not just words, but assuming. There's a lot of assumptions going on. And a lot of our brains sort of are more comfortable with knowing this is good, this is bad. Eat this berry, it's good. Don't eat this berry, it's bad. That's a good guy, that's a friend. We love this person. Don't get away from that guy. He's a bad guy. So the brain, for survival reasons, needs black and white thinking. So we need to say, okay, we're going to make black and white decisions. Like I'm going to get in one Uber. I'm not going to get in both Ubers. I'm not going to get in a Lyft and an Uber. I'm going to get in one or the other. I mean, you have to physically move your life and go forward. You got to make decisions. You got to do things. But we're not going to lie to ourselves and say that this was the right decision no matter what. We don't know. We just don't know. We're just homos, humans, crawling on the face of the earth. We're just greasy homos, doing the best we can, but we don't know anything. And you can't know anything. How could you know anything? I mean, other than basics like we exist. Because I think, therefore I am. So we know we exist. And it's fascinating times when everything is changing and getting crazy. And the theories of that everything's a dream or it's all just like the Matrix or something is it's very easy to see. So meanwhile, reality is whatever it is. That's what we're defining it as. That's what I'm defining it as. You can define it whatever you want. But that's what I mean. When you use the word reality, you're thinking about what you think is reality. Like the earth is round. You'll say that's reality. But we don't know that that's reality. We assume it is. We make a rational assumption. Just like everything in our lives. We don't know if the sun's going to come up tomorrow. I mean, who knows what could happen with this universe. We are aware that everything could be obliterated in the solar system. Who knows? Anything could happen. So we assume the sun's going to come up tomorrow, everything's going to work, the planets and everything's going to keep spinning around the same scenario. Some anomaly is not going to come along and just, blow our minds. But it could happen. It's just the chances of it are so small that it's not even something worth considering. And then also, what are you going to do? So there's nothing worth considering there. But instead of falsifying the reality and saying it's not possible for the sun to not come up tomorrow, for us to say, nope, it's absolutely, without a doubt, there is no possible conception of it even, that the sun doesn't come up. That's wrong. That's not living in reality. And so I'm calling this agnosticism because that's what we use for, or we used to use for, whether you believe something is, you don't, typically with gods, but with everything. Agnosticism is a way of thinking that I'm realizing I have and other people don't. And that's why one of the foundations of living in reality and understanding things. Because what I've noticed is I understand things that are happening and other people don't. They don't understand it all. like with Christianity, there are people genuinely believing that a man can be a god in the center of the universe, and is that what on earth is happening? That's not even a remotely what I'd say is not possible, but that's a colloquialism. I'm saying it's not possible, but I mean, of course it's possible. Anything's possible. I'm just a greasy homo crawling on the earth, doing the best I can. But that's the point. It's like we're looking at here's the reality of the situation and how much do we have grasp on and what do we know. And you look at the history of Christianity, you look at, I'm a homo. Let's see. I don't think I'm a God Almighty. You could definitely say a homo is of godlike qualities because we are so amazing, right? We are amazing. You're amazing. And it doesn't matter how stupid or ignorant or controlled by your brain, which is what I'm calling retarded, or uncaring you are absolutely off the charts amazing. For this universe, from what we know, and it might be that there's a lot more going on, but still, what we know is there's a lot not going on in this universe. So if there are any gods, they're going to be very interested in these atoms that have come together and formed a consciousness that believes it is Bo. That's me, I'm Bo. So, am I, right? I believe I'm Bo, but I've labeled myself Bo, so that's how we can go, well, I've labeled myself Bo, so that is I am Bo, because I'm Bo by definition. So that's what words are. Words mean only what the speaker thinks they mean, the user thinks they mean, the typer, when you type it out. These are real words that exist in the physical universe. You type, there's actual little, I forgot what they're called. The little parts of, I did look it up. What the actual, where those words are physically in the universe. Because if I speak, this is sound waves that are physically in the universe. The electronic signal is, I can't exactly figure out what that is. It's electrons, it's a pattern of electrons going through. So that's a physical thing going on in the universe with our speaking, with our typing, with our writing, especially if you carve something into a tree or papyrus. So it's real. So I'll often forget where I'm going. And then that's the real downside of doing live. Because the upside is it's just published and I don't have to fret over it and then say, oh, can I do that better and edit? And then I'm like, oh, I want to edit it better. You could take this and then edit this, So that's the situation here. So it's a real thing that exists in the physical universe. The iteration of each word is really what we're talking about. So potato, potato, potato. I've said 3 different words, but also some people could say, oh, you said the same word because it's the same collection of sounds. But each time we speak, we're applying different memory sometimes to those collections of sounds. Oh yeah, I wanted to say what the reason why the 13 words of semantics, the reality of semantics, words mean only what their users thought they meant when they used them, is the reason why so clip that out. The reason why is because there's something going on. There's the whole awareness. When I start to think about someone watching me, it really is overwhelming. Do I need to have like blinders on? Like, there's not a camera here. Because I'll rant all day by myself, just talking to myself, practicing rants to oblivion. Anyway, the reason. So then we could get a problem where I have to do multiple takes of something, and that would be extremely awkward. And that doesn't work for anything. But the reason why that is 13 words are what they are is because that's what we're defining a word as. So if you say a word is something else, if you say a word is whatever I think a word is, well, then a word is whatever you think a word is. Because that's what I'm saying, the 13 words. If you're speaking, then a word is whatever you think it is. If I'm speaking, a word is whatever I think it is. And so I thought, my theory was that most people understand a word to be a collection of sounds that we've applied meaning to. The key part, applied meaning to. So if I say potato, is it a word? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe someone doesn't know what that means. Maybe someone's speaking in a different language, potato, and it means 3 different words and it means something else. Maybe potato is just something he's saying with no meaning. It's just babbling. It's part of a potato. I mean, it could have no meaning. So that's the reality of the situation. But people don't think in terms of reality. They think of things in terms of usability, in the actual, what can I make money off of? How can I manipulate people into having sex with me? How can I get my way with people or manipulate power struggles, this kind of thing, taking for themselves? And then you're only thinking about what do most people interpret words as. And so it doesn't ever cross your plate that a word actually is whatever the person thinks it is, because you're not thinking in those terms. You're thinking in terms of what do I write on this sign because I want to sell some jelly beans. So you write jelly beans. You're thinking most people understand, and that's it. So you don't think about the concept of a word, and it's not really a problem with jelly beans and potatoes. Pass the salt mostly means pass the salt, and you pick up the salt and you give it to someone whoever's asking for it. But there's a real problem when you get into politics. And people lose track of what words are. For instance, Nazis are now the good guys. But people don't know that. They don't understand what words are. Racist people are people that care about black people. And that's a really confusing thing to people, because they're thinking in terms of third grade usage of words. They're thinking of theoretical words. So there's the physical words that are coming out of my mouth. Are created by me. They mean only what I think they mean. And that's it. Actually, what I thought they meant. So whatever I thought they meant is what they actually meant. Later on, 10 years later, I might think that I meant something else. And I might say, no, I meant this. And that's not what I meant, though. The reality is set in stone. The meaning is what the person thinks it is at the time that they say it. But we can never know that because they could always be dishonest about it. So you don't really know the meaning, but it is a real thing, and that is the actual meaning. Your interpretation of it is your interpretation. It's your guess at what the meaning is. It doesn't determine the meaning. You're just trying to guess the meaning or trying not to. Or you're just kind of in a daydream, and then I say the word and you think of what it makes you think of. And then you start to assume that's the meaning, and then that's it. You've assumed the communication is what you assumed it was, but it is actually what I was communicating. So this comes up when you're dealing with someone like me who's in reality. I'm dealing with reality, reality, reality. It's all about that. That is the answer to the universe, is absolutely focus on reality. Well, that's not an answer to the universe. That is a prime focus, of a decent person. And I've seen so many times people just do not focus on that. And so then of course, if you're a Christian, you eventually find out that this doesn't make any sense. This is all a lie. It's manipulation. And you become what we used to call an atheist. Now we call an anti-theist or something. I don't know. You become a person that believes that there are no gods. And this kind of person is the worst kind of human in the world. A person that believes that the opposite of whatever they originally believed. You've been red-pilled, in other words. And so you just think the opposite. Oh, I've been lied to, the opposite. instead of being agnostic from the beginning if you can. So teach your kids to understand. Hey, in fact, if you're Christians, teach your kids, hey, this is what I believe is happening. This is what the church teaches us. This is how we will answer these questions in public. But, we don't actually know for sure anything that's happening. We're just doing the best we can. And that right there is going to solve so many problems because they're going to understand, okay, reality. If what the church says and everybody says doesn't jive with reality, it could be that they're all wrong about that. So it could be. The problem is Christians are used to supporting the institution of Christianity because they support the institution. Everyone's reason is different. It's so horrifying. The destructive nature of this. To teach a child that a man can be a god, that any one of us could be a god, is absolutely throwing them a curveball at a time when they're barely understanding. They don't even know what words are. They don't know what the letters of the alphabet are. But you're telling them that one man, a human, a homo, any one of us could be the center of not just the Earth's most powerful God, but the entire, not solar system or galaxy, but the universe. I mean, it's just such an audacious claim to say that is absolutely how it is, and you cannot doubt that. That if you doubt that, you use the capacity that you're given by the Creator God. We've been created. We have somehow, for whatever reason, if there's any kind of Creator God, we have the capacity to use logic and reasoning, and we're told that we have to believe that any one of us can be this magic beans and unicorn character that is the most powerful entity in the universe. It is such a curveball. I just really want you to think twice or 3 times or every day for the rest of your life about passing that on to them. And if you have to, you're compelled to, then pass it on. But like I said, couch it in reality and say, hey, this is what I think. Because they really look up to you. They have no idea what's going on. They're brand new entities, as far as we know, right? Now the Eastern world is drenched for thousands of years in the idea of reincarnation, and so Buddhism comes from the Hindu concept of this, and so it's all reincarnation. So the idea of reincarnation is an interesting one. It just seems like, hey, that's a possibility. Sure. That's what I mean. Like, be agnostic. Yeah, sure, maybe. But what looks like reality is, observable reality, what we see, what we can imagine and piece together, is that we are created. We're an organism that replicates, and we recreate ourselves. And so that is a new thing. We've taken atoms and created a new thing with a genetic code that puts together a brain that develops a mind and a concept and a conceptual structure, consciousness. And that is you. You're the consciousness of your brain. You're not your brain. Your brain is your organ that generates you. It generates the consciousness that is you. But we often use our body. We say, me. He touched me. But he didn't really touch you. He touched your body. But yeah, I mean, we use it that way. But just to understand reality, you are not your brain. You're the consciousness formed by it. And so that's just another point of reality. And so we kind of need to understand these things. We kind of need to understand. And so that's what I've realized. This is not just, here's a solution, here's a solution. This is about, people don't understand what reality is itself. Reality is a thing that exists. It's out there. So let's say if this is reality, I'm going to come along and go, okay, I think this is reality. I'm going to put my understanding of it like right here because I think that lines up with it. But if I'm agnostic, I know it doesn't line up. So it could be this, it's over here. I don't know where reality really is. I think it's here. So when reality shifts, and I'm getting the cues on that, I assess where's reality. Oh, it looks like it's over here now. But if you're not, if you think this is reality, you don't pick up on those shifting cues. So that's why people are still watching the news. They didn't get the memo of when the news went hog wild and killed millions of Americans and nobody batted an eyelash. And it was just like, what's happening? What's going on? The news just lied to us and caused the death of millions, or who knows, and nobody cares. Nobody cares, nobody knows, nobody's talking about it. I mean, in so many different ways too. So the most important way is, well, I mean, they didn't cause these deaths. So how many deaths did they cause, who knows? Worldwide, millions, right? Oh, so that's another thing, is that, people die from spoons. There's some people that would say, oh, what do you mean? I don't believe it. But like, hold on a second. Think about it. 8 billion people. A lot of people eating food with spoons. You don't think people could die from a spoon? You're eating with the spoon. It's already in your mouth a lot of the time. So that's easy to see how a spoon could choke on it. Someone could kill you with a spoon. You could fall on the spoon wrong. Hits your temple or something. So the reality is, of course, someone's died from a spoon. But there are people out there that say, I don't accept reality until I know it's there. So this is another aspect of maybe agnosticism that's doing this. And I'm wondering about the concept of idea permanence. Just like object permanence with children. If you're a child, younger than 18 months, an infant, baby, toddler, whatever, pre-toddler, you would not have object permanence necessarily. It develops in that time period. In other words, when you close your eyes, it is this, you believe that your mommy doesn't exist anymore. She's not there. So object permanence can be so that's why they might cry at night, I guess. They close their eyes, oh my God, my mom's gone. Even if they're sleeping right next to them. So with object permanence, you learn that when you close your eyes and when something's, you have an object that goes under the table, it's still under there. When you learn that, you're learning that. But idea permanence would be that concept of there's an idea out there. Just because you don't know the idea, right? Your eyes are closed to it. You don't know. I don't know this idea. But there's an idea out there. So people are dying from the different things going on in the world, like the system of time. That's probably a good example there. Like AM and PM, just right there, that aspect of the way we use time, how many people has that killed? Or I would ask you, how has that killed anyone? Your answer should be obviously yes. So obvious reality is they have killed people. That has killed people. Probably a lot of people, right? But somebody's got to have died. There's no way, right? We would just say the chances are. And so the idea of idea permanence, that when you don't understand an idea, it's still out there, is an important thing in what I'm talking about, because I'll bring things up, but people they have no conception of the idea of that happening. No one's ever talked about it. No institution's saying it. So they don't believe that the idea itself can possibly be out there. And that's what I'm saying. You need to know that ideas are out there. And so it's another aspect is solutions. Like if I talk about the answer to the universe, there are people that would say there are no answers to the universe. They believe this. They believe that nothing can be solved, no problems can be solved, nothing can be done. And then there are others that define it to be something that's unachievable. And if you're saying the answer to the universe can't exist because I say it can't exist, okay, then you're right. Then you're saying you're defining the answer to the universe as something that can never exist. But what I'm saying the answer to the universe is, it would be something that qualifies as it's unstoppable. You can't stop it from being done. It's a very simple thing that a tyrannical government cannot stop you from doing. It has a, what's the word for it? A spider webbing effect through society, where one action causes multiple reactions, that these actions cause reactions and reactions and reactions because of that, to making always incentivizing the best for society. So there's two things that I would say I'm aware of that are answers to the universe. And you can say that I've created them, but when a person creates something, we're getting, like, I was raised by two amazing homos. And, you know, they put a lot of effort into me, and then straight Jesuit. You know, I went to a Catholic high school, a lot of effort put into me. My mom and dad put that into that. There's all kinds of help from people that I've had over my life. There's communities, there's all the inventions, the technology and things brought to me by other humans. So to say I've created something is a lie. No one is creating something by themselves. No one, not anymore. Maybe back in the day with Katunga, and he's like, you know, knocking rocks together. He figured maybe something out by himself, literally, because he's never had another human, another homo come across his way. But this is something that we have created. I've discovered that we are not aware of this. There's something missing. I don't know what it is. Is it too simple? Do people think it's simple? Are they not understanding? Maybe you can't understand hypotheticals, or think you can't, or something. But so the answers to the universe must have that unstoppability, that spider webbing, where single actions create this resonating effect because of the reactions of those reactions, and all the side effects of that are so beneficial to society, and that kind of thing. So it qualifies as an answer to the universe. So the two things I would say are, one is what I'm calling one-to-one representation. Now that's my brand name, one-to-one representation. But what that is elected representation. I'm just trying to describe what elected representation is, which is essentially whenever anyone tries to come up with a reform concept of voting or something, they'll often just really, you can see they're trying to say the same word for representation. Proportional representation is proportional, you know? So representation is what it is. It's people speaking on your behalf, and then elected is choosing. So that's what that is. But for whatever reason, the vast majority of people do not at all recognize what that is. They think it is someone else choosing something for you. And I'm like, no, electing, you choose. So it is electing, that the elites are electing people for you to choose from. But I'm saying, how about you elect a representative? That's a completely different take on it, that we would elect the representatives. But that's the thing. A lot of people think they think we chose Trump. And then you have people like, I regret my vote for Trump. Like, what are you talking about? You've got two things to choose from. Like, Kamala is nobody. Nobody should vote for Kamala. It doesn't make any sense. So, okay, that's an obvious thing. You should vote for Trump, or a protest vote, or not vote at all. So 41% of people did not vote for either one. 30% of people voted for Trump because they did not want Kamala to win. Kamala got 29% or so, something like that. And that's one aspect that we're not facing reality. We don't think about how many people actually voted for what. We look at how many people voted, and of that voting percentage, what percent agree or disagree. But that's only of people who voted. Like, they'll even say he had a majority of the votes. Of the votes, but what about the people who didn't vote? You see how they just leave everybody out? 1-to-1 is why I named it that. Because it counts everyone. Me. 100% counts me. You. 100% counts you. You choose a person, elect a representative. Your voting power goes 100% to that person. There's no dispute. They get that. This process is really something we needed a spreadsheet for. So this is a technology-based thing. So since the 90s is really where we were able to do this kind of thing. I started doing a public access show in 97 and had a rough time trying to explain it while also dealing with callers and trying to go with the flow of things and trying to be fun and funny and enjoy things. But it got all over the place, and I think people just got lost in the jokes or the nonsense and forgot I'm talking about something very real. We can actually elect our representatives. This is not a disputable thing. It's not a joke. It's not unsustainable. You simply say out of your mouth who you want. I've already elected a representative, Thomas Massey. As an American, adult American, I elected Thomas Massey for 26 to report on the federal government. Okay. So I'm electing him out of my mouth. Very easy. No bureaucracy, no paperwork, right? No proof really, other than I guess this is kind of proof, right? But I'm electing him. If I say out of my mouth that he is, even if I don't say it, if I can just imagine it in my mind, I can decide, right? I can think, I want a taco. I've decided, yeah, I'm going to get a taco. I didn't say anything out loud. Electing is choosing. So if I make a decision, I choose. It's not even something I have to say out loud. So you don't even need to say anything to elect a representative. You just do it. Inside your head, doesn't take but 0.2 seconds, and there you go. You've done it. But it doesn't really make any sense for us all to elect different people for different things. Like I go to Taco Bell, like I elect you to clean the kitchen up better, and I elect you over here at the public library to get more books in this place. And we could do that, and that helps people understand the word elect means to choose, and the concept that we can all elect. But as soon as we start electing the same group, the person for the same body of elected representatives, board, B-O-E-R, then it's different. Now we have something specific that we're focusing on. And that's why I think the first most important board there should be is adult Americans electing representatives to report on the federal government. That's the most important thing. And I used to say oversee the federal government, but that sounds like you have a power over the people. But we're not talking about authority. We're talking about someone that's representing you to speak in a conversation. So I'm choosing to report on the federal government, Thomas Massey. And it does help that he is involved. That's why I'm choosing, he knows how things work. But you're electing anyone. That's what I'm talking about, one-to-one, your freedom. You're electing a representative. There's no bureaucracy, there's no nominations, there's no ballots and all that to sort through. I'm talking about reality. You elect a representative, and that's it. So there you go. You elect a representative. They get your vote. All you need to do is think it, really, but where the rubber meets the road is you start talking to people about who you chose. I chose Thomas Massey. I'm talking to you about it. Who did you choose to report on the federal government? Report on the federal government. So if we use the same language, report on the federal government, and we have the understanding that we're talking about adult Americans, anybody can then at some point say, well, I know how to make a website. I know how to measure that. I'm a billionaire with a platform. I'll just add a tab to my social media platform, and then now there's a representative one-to-one body, or whatever they would call it. They won't call it one-to-one, they'll make it their own or something. But you need to understand the concepts of one-to-one representation, and that's 11 words. Periodically, each member may transfer their voting power to any member. So set a time period, monthly, whatever. And when you're starting this from scratch, you might want to do 15 minutes. You might want to say everyone's in an auditorium. Okay, 15 minutes. We're going to do like a kind of a speed dating thing with finding out who your candidates are. Start talking, not candidates. I'm so sorry. There's no candidates. You elect someone or you don't. Everyone's a candidate. They can all be the person. So that's what I mean. So periodically each member, so that anybody, may, this is optional, you don't have to. You keep your own representation. You are one. You count as a number one. There's a one above your head. You keep it, or you transfer it. May transfer their voting power. And so you transfer that voting power to another person. Who? To any member. So another member of this group. So this really only works with groups that are definable. It gets a little loosey-goosey if you said people that like the color blue. Well, how do you define that? I mean, people can lie and say they like the color blue. So what does that mean? You're kind of just saying people that will... So the real definition there then would be people who say that they like the color blue. The reality is that's what the group is. But anyway, so the United States, adult Americans are a very provable thing. You can prove that you're a citizen. You have some documentation on that. So it can be something that people can create a way, a website, a place, an institution. People could start doing it with their precincts. It's a thing that can happen. But we need to know, are people interested in this? I am. So I'm electing a representative. I'm just simply thinking of who my representative is. And I'm talking to other people about it. If you think that's a good idea, oh God, let's just take over. Let's just do this. And so take over is very scary. And I like to use frightening terms like the murder boar or something to let people know this is not a joke. This is a very real thing. This is taking over. Because in the United States, once a boar forms, there's no undoing it. There's no getting away from it. The people will then join it because they have one-to-one representation. They'll join because they can have absolutely the same amount of power as everybody else who's been in there dead 10 years. If you join some institution, you can't just walk in the door and all of a sudden start voting as an equal member. There's all sorts of whoa. They're worried about infiltrators. There are no infiltrators with this because this is dealing with reality. We're always measuring the actual amount of RQ. How much representation do you have? It's the number of people. We're not denying that the people that did not show up to the meeting. We're always dividing by the common denominator, in other words. The common denominator for is the total membership of the group. So for the United States, so adult citizens, it is, I guess, 250 million Americans, maybe, something like that. So I, in other words, am 1/250 millionth of the entire population of Americans. So I am speaking on behalf of all Americans to the amount of 1/250 millionth. And that's what would happen if a board came together of a few million people. It might be just 4% of the United States population of adults. But we would always measure that. We were never saying that we're 100% of Americans agree. We would say we're just 4%. So we'd say 3.8% of Americans agree. But as we come together and form coalitions, interact, this is what I say. There's the math. I've explained the math. It's very simple. The magic is where you have to understand the contingent world we're creating, where we now can come together and solve problems. We can now come together and say what we want. It's something that is so radically different. We're so used to, like movie theaters. They'll make a movie and you go see it or you don't. Right? And we think we're making a choice there. Okay, but they're offering the choice. So yes, we're choosing, but we're not choosing. So we're not choosing what movies are made, and we're not having any influence on it. Whereas with a boar, we could say, look, we want character development. We want you to have a character do what the character is supposed to do. If you write a story about a character behaving a certain way, unless you've got some kind of twist or magic beans and unicorns comes in that makes the person change their ways, why in the hell are they all of a sudden a marauding psychopath? Like Daenerys or something. Just why are stories being just disregarded? Basic common sense stuff that a fourth grader would recognize and be appalled at and be counted wrong. I mean, if you were writing a book or a story, you would count off points for that. I mean, if this is high school or something, you're writing a story with characters, you would say, oh, the characters start, okay, you get it. And there are way too many people talking about movies and movie stars in Hollywood and, things they don't like woke is bad and this is bad. But when you're forced, basically, you're incentivized, in other words, to talk about what you want to do, you become a different person. You're not worried about this other guy. You're like thinking, why was I even worried about this other thing? There's a homeless guy who can't get his life together. Why are you even worried about that? Yeah, he can't get his life together. Meanwhile, you got your life. You're being oppressed by a tyrannical government. You're being charged taxes for no reason. I mean, the amount of money right off the bat is the reason we need to come together. But people will come together, we'll get rid of all the nonsense. The budget of the United States will be reduced to half, almost instantaneously. But what we're really going to benefit from is the ability to come together as a group of people and have everybody reflected. Everyone's a part of it. families. Like I'm part of a family that I think I'm never going back to Baton Rouge. I think I'm never going back to see any of them. I don't know these people. I don't know what the hell are we doing. I see them only when the oldest person dies in that area. And to varying degrees, we come together and have conversations. It might be just a couple of hours. And then what's going on here? This is not a family. This is not how a family should behave. This is deterioration. It's the remnants of a family. So if you want to keep your family together, form a one-to-one board of your family. I had a girlfriend who had numbers. They had families with, you had a numbered place in the family, and they were up to like 800 or whatever. So it was a sort of a big thing and all that. But someone's keeping track of that. But that's what I mean. If they have someone keeping track of it, if someone in that family stops keeping track of it, and it just kind of falls out of whatever, it just doesn't exist. Whereas I'm saying you can form an institutional process. You can institutionalize the concept of we represent. Every year we choose a person to represent ourselves. And if you don't, it's one-to-one. So it deals with reality 100%. If nobody does, it reverts back to us, the individual. But what that does is allows us to know exactly how many people are involved, how many people want this or that. We're getting responses to the family and what they want. For instance, and this is what I mean, like well into the future. So the first thing is you deal with logistic problems or who's violating basic social codes, right? Like Uncle Bo's got too drunk at another family gathering or something, right? So we need to make rules about things. So those kinds of things are the first things you get. But what we can have is, hey, if we did this every time we got together, like I always thought it would be great when you get together, everybody in the family has to name all of the family members. Like everybody there, you have to know everybody's name that's there. But you also, like for kids, a game of where you lay out all of the family members of their genetic clan and the elders that are not there or even deceased relatives and stuff. Lay those out, and they have to know their names and their relation. Oh, don't even lay them out, just like their cards. Oh, they got to lay them out. Who can do that correctly? And you maybe say the first to be able to do it correctly wins, and you start with the youngest. That's an easy way to do it, because then the youngest try at it, and then the oldest are supposed to know this more, right? And then the oldest will know it. And by doing this, so that what that does is, it's like when the teacher asks you a question. When you ask the class, so what is the reason for that revolution? The brains in the classroom go, what? He's asking me. I gotta know. So it's kind of an act of trauma, really. Sometimes I think about that, and I wonder about how much are we doing to get people's attention? Like, are we becoming the Mr. Beast, show? Like, oh, we lost the students' attention. We need to do this and this, and this has to happen. And well, at some point, we want to make sure that we're not just, activating the brain in a way that is not natural or is not healthy or whatever. But that is the gist of that. So that answer to the universe is one-to-one representation. You first elect a representative. Then you count the votes, the voting, the election that you did. We're not voting. Voting is like a gamble. You vote and you go, I don't know, let's see. We'll see if that even affected anything. That's not vote. That's not electing. Electing is choosing. So what I'm saying electing is choosing. So if you chose Kamala Harris, she is elected. But if you say, no, someone's not elected unless they're officially approved, that's a different thing. You're talking about a different thing. I'm talking about elected as in chosen. So if you elect somebody, they are elected. So yeah. Okay, so then you measure the RQ. Oh, so you elect representatives, you measure the RQ. The RQ is how many people is each person representing? Each person at one time transfers of their voting power. or they keep it, right? And then you go, okay, that's it. Hands down, let's count how many people have what. So there's going to be a person with the most, the second most, third, right? All the way down to the very end where a lot of people voted for themselves. Maybe they didn't hear about the election, they didn't know what's going on, they're inactive members, they're dead, or who knows what. So, and it's just not registering in the paperwork yet. So what you have is this graph of the most, each of these numbers is an RQ. That number divided by the common denominator. So for the American, for this bore of adult Americans to report on the federal government, that would be the RQ divided by 250 million. So it's a fraction, but it's also referred to the number. So we would say he's RQ2, RQ5. But then it depends on what group we're talking about. If it's a group of barbers and there's only 5 people in the barber and he's RQ5, that means he's the dictator of the whole barbecue squad, a barber squad. Wait, why aren't barbers having barbecue and barbecue, right? And you get like a free po' boy. Jay's po' boys. Look, Jay's barbecue, Baton Rouge. That's what we need to do. They need to have a barber where you're just chowing down on a Jay's barbecue. And so, by the way, I don't think I'm ever going back to Baton Rouge. And so I'm actually starting to believe this. So I'm not going to, so I am kind of over this, but I'm fretting the concept. I will never have another Jay's barbecue po' boy. And so I do have to say, look, if you are out there for me when I'm gone, if there's one thing you could do for me, obviously elect representatives. Obviously the other one is pass down your curated wisdom. But go to Baton Rouge, get a po' boy from Jay's. And I don't know what they're called. It's just like a po' boy. I don't think you ask for it. It's just po' boy. Standard po' boy, I bet, is all you have to ask for. And it is the best, whatever the hell, brisket. I don't even know. I don't question it. I don't care if it's human. It's the best thing you'll ever eat. And it's undeniably. I often think about just like, when I was there, I was like, do I need to get an apartment like next door to Jay's? It's every day. Well, I mean, every other day, because you probably eat half a sandwich a day. Okay, so meanwhile, that's a Jay's, brought to you by Jay's. Okay, so obviously not brought to you by them. They don't have any advertising. No, they're sitting on a gold mine. I need to go to Shark Tank. I need to go to Shark Tank. Hey, Sharks. Yeah, I got nothing. But there's this place, Jay's Barbecue. You wouldn't believe it. I mean, I'm just, here, open your sandwiches, have a little bite. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to buy these people out, buy the rights. Here's what we need to do. We need to buy the rights to have the sandwiches made that way. And that's it. We're not buying the name Jay's Barbecue. We're not even doing that. You keep Jay's Barbecue. I mean, they would sell that for, right? I'm just saying, teach me how to make the sandwiches. That's it. Just show me how to make the sandwiches. Allow me legally to make the sandwiches that way. That's all I'm looking for. I mean, honestly, a small amount of money will buy that. And let's do it and make these things all over the universe and everybody's eating this and living in perfect utopia. Okay, so meanwhile, so that's that. Okay, then the other step 3. So there's elect your representatives. Then there's measure the RQ. Then there's allot the resources according to the RQ. So this is where you're telling people, nope, you got to shut up because you have a time limit. You are RQ0. Who let you in the room? Get out of here. This is the meeting, dummy. You voted, you have a representative speaking on your behalf. You're not even in the room. There's no clapping or anything from you. And if it's on a website, they don't have any emoticons or anything. There's nothing. They're not interfering or upvoting or downvoting anything. They are outside of the area. That's the concept. We're having a enclosed conversation where every single person is represented. You're represented. I am represented. We're all equally, each person, one-to-one represented, and not one person's left out. That guy who's an anarchist living in a cave and he's barricaded and he's never talked to anyone for 10 years. We don't even know if he's still alive. We're going to count him as still alive and he's elected himself. We count him in the RQ. Not one member of any of this group, whatever group it is we're talking about for one-to-one, is left out. Not one member. That's what's different. Currently, you have Trump, but then how many people would have voted for Trump if they could have voted for anybody? And they would be president. So if you could choose any human being to be president, and they would be president. If you wanted to be president, you'd say, bing, I want me. If you voted for yourself or your wife or your child or whatever, and they could be president, how many people would actually choose Donald Trump to be president? Do you see? When we look at reality, it's going to be a very, very small amount of people. And it might be so shockingly small, it might be 50 people, right? It might be 50 people. But we don't know because all we have are two choices. So we're not measuring what people want. What we could do is put on the ballot another question. So here's the ballot. Here's your vote for president. Then after that, we could say, just simply, checkbox. Is there anyone that you would have chosen otherwise if they would have gotten the position and been implemented into this position? Because my theory is the vast majority of people would not have chosen Kamala, Donald, Joe, Hillary. You know, these are absurd. These are absurdities. This is someone that is vastly unwelcome by most people as a president. It is such a strange scenario where, and then people, but that's what I mean. So we know that it seems like most people think that, but then we turn around and say, oh, we chose them. We chose Trump. Who are these people that chose Trump? What do you mean? We're not choosing anything, dummy. So if we have a single winner, that's approval voting. That's a thing you can do there. But what I'm talking about is not changing governments at all. That's another issue. How to change governments is a thing. But there's a concept of elected representation you could use in your reform ideas. Take one-to-one and use that format to try to get as much one-to-one representation in the House of Representatives or something. But this is for multi-winner, like a city of Austin, the city council of any city could be one-to-one. But I'm not talking about government reform. I'm talking about you right now could just elect right now in your own head the name of a person that is an American citizen that you would want to report on the federal government. If you did that, then you've done it. Now that's 2. Now 3, because I've got Dubs, me, and you. So that's 3. As soon as we get 2 million, we're getting to the point where we are clicking over into 1/60th of the American people, which would be about 4 million people. So once you get to 2 million, you're halfway to significance. And that's enough to get anyone's attention. In other words, once you're significant, now you're swaying elections here and there. And once you're swaying elections, someone might be interested in putting that together and making that happen. But nothing's happening. You elect a representative. I elected Thomas Massey. Nothing's happening with that, other than the action has been taken by one person. The action's been taken by you. It's been taken by Dubs. If all we need is people to just say that. Or someone wants to come out from the woodwork and say, hey, let's just start doing it. Let's start forming BOR. Sure, form a BOR of whatever. If you want me to work with you and help you, this is not necessarily me working with you. I would love to work with people and find other people that are interested in this. Most people are not going to find, I'm very obnoxious. And a lot of the things I do are adult oriented, even just the conversations I'm having, talking about Jesus and reality. I don't want to interfere with what you're teaching your children. If you're teaching your children something, let's just leave it like that. But once they're 13, that's when you're an adult and you're starting to grow and become more and more of an adult. 13 is what I would say is an adult, 0%. As you move forward, you become 100% adult at 21. And so that's a good way to think of it, because every day you're moving closer to adulthood. You could think of it as a percent. It helps parents understand, wait a minute, we need to stop babying this guy. He's about to be on the street having a family, or, we need to get this guy ready to go out of here, So the parents are aware, everyone's aware of this ticking marker of percentage that is increasing over a period of 8 years from 13 to 21. So that, I would say, is a solution. That's not the answer to the universe. That's a solution. But this other one, aside from elected representation, this other answer to the universe would be curated wisdom, is what I'm calling it. Because the expectation is that you curate wisdom from your experience and you write it down for your children and you explain to them that they will take this wisdom that you've given them, take from it and add to it as they see fit, and they will curate the wisdom. So you're going to curate wisdom. You're going to write it down for your children, some specific curated thing, and then you're going to encourage them to do the same for their children. But the same in that you're telling them specifically, take what I've told you and throw it all away if you want. You're going to tell your children whatever you want to tell them. A lot of learning lessons happen from this, and that's why I say this is an answer to the universe, because what it does is it forms a new religion that is based on ground up. It's a grassroots where everything's based on need and reality, and what it does is it doesn't smother out the historical institutions like churches and physical buildings of churches or institutions, that are doing things. People that are in the career of there's a lot of Catholics that are in the career of being a Catholic, right? We don't want to just starve these things. Now, Catholics are never going to go poor because they have the wealth of the Pope, which has immense amounts of wealth, in the Vatican, the gold, and the everything, I'm sure. So, yeah, they're not going to want for anything. But we don't want to attack anyone. It's not about that. It's just about withdrawing support. So withdraw support, and if you want to support them, go ahead. I'm not going to support that too much. And so when you do that, people have to actually provide something. There needs to be a service. This is what I've noticed. We were raised Catholic, and of all the effort I went to St. Michael's in Houston from 2nd grade all the way to straight Jesuit, 12th grade. All private school, all of that effort and all that opportunity to propagandize me with anything they wanted to do. And there's not really any real wisdom being passed down. They're not telling us how to live our lives, the important lessons. So much of it is the nonsense gobbledygook of worship a man as a god, things that don't make sense. And because it doesn't make sense, you have to spend so much effort forcing it down everyone's throat that we're losing the whole point of they thought. Mom and Dad, I'm sure, thought, oh, well, I'm sure they're learning something appropriate in school, like they're learning something that's going to help them. But we didn't get the wisdom. And because and they certainly didn't tell you to curate the wisdom. So anyway, this fixes that problem, because now wisdom will be something that is real and usable. And we'll keep up with it. And we'll keep up with what's important. Because the wisdom's always out there, right? A stitch in time saves 9. You're not ever going to escape that. That's going to be some kind of concept out there, right? So if you never include that in anybody's thing, it's still out there. People will learn it. But what's important is what you teach your children. They look up to you. You're their parent. What do you teach your children? If you give them a Bible, let's say, an entire New and Old Testament Bible, what the Christians would say is the Bible, that's overwhelming. You're not giving them anything. This is a case of, it's so much that there's nothing they can learn. They could completely misread and misunderstand everything. They could go to things that Leviticus that have nothing to do with anything and be learning ancient Hebrew law codes that are completely irrelevant and have no idea any of the life lessons that are out there. But that's it. Even if it's just 3 things, even if it's just 3 to 5 things, remember, we can only remember 3 to 5 things. I would say 3 to 5 things in each category of stuff. So imagine the categories of life and 3 to 5 things. Either way, just write something down and give it to them. And if it's hodgepodge over time, then so be it. But the idea is, I'm giving you this wisdom. This is wisdom. Right off the bat, the child is realizing, oh, wait, wisdom? What's different about other things like don't run in the street. That's not really wisdom. That's just kind of like a rule. Like follow rules is not a really wisdom. You know, it's maybe understand why the rule has been created, or understand the consequences of the rules. Is really maybe the more of a wisdom kind of. So anyway, the concept of wisdom right there. So they'll learn, just anything is not wisdom, and they'll start to think and generate and search for wisdom. And then if they start asking people, like their elders in school, their teachers, or their elder uncles, aunts, and all that, what their wisdom is, that's key. Now, they're going to be thinking. Now you're getting other people to think about wisdom. You're getting other people to think, well, what is wise? So, because as a society, we need to come together and say, what in the hell where are we going with this? Wisdom, for me, is important that we focus on reality. This is a major concept people have missed. I mean, and maybe the first point of wisdom, the most fundamental piece of wisdom, is that wisdom is important. And that's what I'm telling you. Maybe you need to say to your children that wisdom is important. But did we not fail to mention that? Because if apparently, we forgot about, women having peenies, that we forgot to tell kids that women don't have peenies, Oops. So, curated wisdom, those three things, basically, 3 steps or 3 parts of that, where you curate wisdom, come up with it, write it down, pass it down in writing to your child, and then encourage them to curate the wisdom, take from it, add to it. And that right there could be all kinds of lessons. They can learn that I need this, it's wisdom. Oh, and then there's also basically what we're gonna discover is there's wisdom for different ages. In other words, when I don't have children, but if you have children, what about, don't you kind of forget, don't you realize you've not really understood some of the things you thought were important as a child? Like when you graduate 3rd grade, you go into 4th and 5th grade, you know what you should have done in 3rd grade. It's some wisdom for what 3rd graders would be, something you're more aware of, that you don't really think about as an adult. And if the world changes, the whole thing changes, and so you don't have any reference to that. So you can also do wisdom for each time period, like wisdom as a person who is, let's say, 4 to 7 years old, and then maybe 8 to 12, or you divide it up and however you want to do it. Wisdom for teenagers, that kind of thing. And so as they're teenagers, they're understanding that I'm going to leave my children wisdom that is set for teenagers. This is specific for teenagers. And it's really like going to end up being a list of a hodgepodge of things. And it's just really just kind of like, well, that's what I mean. It'll take form of whatever it needs to be. I could map it out, but what's the point of that? Y'all don't worship me as a god. I'm not the grandfather of some people. I'm not the leader of a group. You're not going to do whatever I tell you. So what's the point of me working it out? You figure it out. And if you don't want to figure it out, write 3 things down on a cocktail napkin and give it to your kid. Hey, kid, figure it out. And then you tell them to do that and curating wisdom. And then generations later, they are doing this. Or they're not. But someone's doing it. And it will spread because because everyone cares about their children. They want to do the right thing. And we all wonder, like, what should we be teaching our kids? You're a young parent, let's say, right? They would ask other people, what wisdom are you teaching your kid? And first of all, they would share, I'm giving my kid wisdom. Do you think of it? Is there any wisdom that you know about? That'd be the first thing. And then that guy's going to go back home to his kids and go, hey man, wait a minute. I'm not sharing my wisdom with my kids. I've realized this, more and more recently also with my brothers not remembering, I have 2 brothers, not remembering the wisdom that our parents told us. Even just little idioms type things, like don't jump off a bridge just because someone said so. And just some different advice. And so it's like, but the advice should go to everyone, for one. It should be institutionalized, and that's what you're doing. You're institutionalizing these things. Same with one-to-one representation. We're taking just how do we solve problems, and let's institutionalize the problem-solving process for a group of people that want to come together and solve a problem. How do you do that? Well, do it with one-to-one. That way it's all fair and we know that no one's being left out. And if it's not effective, that doesn't make any sense. You're not understanding one-to-one then. If you're saying, oh, well, what if they argue? Well, then don't be in the room with those people. You don't have to be in the same room with them. You don't ever have to talk to these people. It's a body of, this is the magic of it. It's a body of elected representatives that they don't ever have to be in the same room. How do you can the same body, but never in the same room even, never talk to each other? That's the magic. That's the power of this. Because you're measuring by common denominator, RQ. RQs can be added up and disregarded. You're always focusing on reality. You're not ever inflating the amount of people like they do with climate science. So the reason they say climate scientists have responded to the survey, but that's who responded to the survey. If you're not someone that supports the idea of this whole thing throughout the decades, then you would never reply to it. So they only count who replied. So 97% of people who replied to my birthday party invitation agreed with me that they should be invited. You know what I mean? Like the people that I hate, that I'm bullying, are not going to reply to the invite. You know, if we're to go with that analogy, I don't know, but yeah. So there's a lot of things that we could just really solve by forming BOR, problems of all kinds, and then there's not just problems, but the movement ahead and towards, like I'm saying, idea permanence. People don't realize that things can be better. They just the idea is not in front of them. No one's saying the idea, so they don't know that it exists. They don't know that this utopian life exists that we can actually have. We can have as close to utopia. There is literally, by definition of reality, the best it will ever get. That's what I'm calling utopia. Utopia is the best it could possibly ever get. So it might be that we've already had that. Maybe that was sometime in the past when we're all band societies running around in Sumeria with all the free fruit and free sex, right? Maybe that was just the best it ever got for homos. Proto-Sumeria was a wild land of plenty. But there are amazing things that we can do if we do these things. But then you have ideas too. You have solutions. Anyway, so that's a solution factory right there with the one-to-one representation. If you have an idea, now we have a way of getting it out there because we can find people that find that interesting. 25 people, now you have 25 RQ. Now you can actually take that and go somewhere with it. What's going to happen, they'll be co-opted by other people because you're sharing the idea. They hear it and they go, oh, this is good. The idea pervades and it's out there. But you can't shut people up if they don't want to be shut up. That's the whole point. If someone thinks something's important, they will withdraw their vote, their voting power, their election from anyone that they have previously elected, and they will elect somebody that will talk about what they think is important. So you cannot silence things anymore just because, well, even just one person is aware of it. You can't technically silence them. I mean, he's one out of 250 million. But it really would take about like 250 people. Once you have 250 people behind you, that's 1 part per million. Now you're on people's radar. We should start paying attention to Americans that have a RQ of 250 and above. Okay, anyway, so I was really just kind of trying this out, doing a live stream for solo one, and first one with OBS and all that. So I appreciate you looking at this, and I appreciate you existing. I hope that you elect representatives. I hope that you curate wisdom and pass it down to your kids, and hope that they encourage them to curate wisdom for their kids too. My name is Bo. I got channel on, so give me a buzz, a click, and a tickle, and please comment anything you think. Especially, a lot of people are held off because I don't want to offend this guy. For some reason, they might hate me even, but not want to offend me. But offend me. Say it. Say whatever you think is true, whatever you're interpreting the words to be. There is no wrong answer here. I'm saying something that 8 billion people do not understand. So I really need, and I have no expectation that you understand this. So if you don't understand, that's great. If you do, leave a comment, but I feel like you don't understand. I feel like people think they understand, but they're still thinking about governments. We're not talking about governments. They don't care about us. We need to talk for ourselves. All right. Thank you. Oh, good Lord. How long is this going to take to get out of here?